and including UC Berkeley, by the way. It's another ironic thing that UC Berkeley, uh, for all of its liberalism, has actually participated in quite a few military projects, including military projects involving nuclear weapons. Um, so UC Berkeley was actually one of the contractors to help build it. And no politics here. I just think it's ironic. Okay, um, but anyway, they were involved in it, and others were involved in it as well, and including AT&T and a number of CERN and a number of other companies and universities and organizations. What these companies realized that some of the abilities on the internet, specifically email, became very useful for, let's say, AT&T communicating with developers in Berkeley. So they started using some of the technology in the early internet, including email, one of the earliest technologies, to communicate with each other. And they realized, hey, this email is a great tool. It helps us to communicate very quickly. So believe it or not, in the early 70s, people were using email. This is a very basic character-based email, but they had email. And they had instant messaging capability back then as well. AT&T developer on the East Coast could communicate with a developer at UC Berkeley, real time. They had that capability back then with the early ARPANET, and they decided this was a really good thing, and they started using it for their other business, not just military business, but other business. And a lot of the military contractors felt this way as well, so they used it for their other business. And eventually the military found out about this, and they weren't so crazy about it, but they didn't mind as long as it was their contractors, and they knew them and they trusted them. Well, eventually universities started thinking, it would be great for our students to use this, and non-military contractors that found out about it wanted to use it. And eventually the military came to the conclusion that they didn't want all this non-military traffic on their ARPANET. So they agreed to split the ARPANET into two networks. The original ARPANET for military purposes would remain just that. And then the internet would be for non-military purposes. And it grew throughout the 80s like this, but not very many people knew about it unless they worked at a university or one of these contractors. I used email at my university, and at my first, or one of my first internships as well, we used email. We had email. That's when I found out about email, and this is the late 80s. And then the first time I ever heard of the internet, I thought I heard the internet, certainly it was the graphical internet, was when I was working at Apple in the early 90s. We got the browsers, the Netscape browser. And so what happened in the early 90s with the browsers was the creation of the graphical internet. The internet existed all the way back to the late 60s. But the graphical internet is what started in the early 90s. And then by making it graphical, you no longer needed to have any serious technical skills to use the internet. You just had to have a mouse and a browser and some sort of computer. And so that opened up the internet to the great masses. So most people think the internet just came into evolution in the early 90s. That's not true. It's been around since the late 60s. But the graphical internet came by in that time frame, and that's what everyone thinks of. Packet switching has to go with I don't want to get into that level. It has to go with switching and sending packets of data, packets of bytes. What would happen is that you don't have the internet exclusively to yourself. So you send part of your message to another computer as a packet, and then someone else's message is behind it, and then maybe the remainder of your message is behind that. And this is how they're sent in something called a packet. And it's basically a group of bytes strung together that belong to a particular message. I don't think I'm going to go through much of this detail. This is kind of technical, talking about packets. It's not that applicable to us. You can read through it and ask questions if you want. The protocol used for the internet today is called TCP/IP, and that's the original protocol that goes back to the late 60s. Transmission control protocol over the internet protocol. Don't know how many people know that your computer has an IP address. What an IP address is? So IP address is a number that uniquely identifies your computer on the internet. If you want to know what your IP address is, if you're in DOS or Windows, you can go out to a command prompt and type config/all. Well, that gives us a lot of stuff. Scroll back up. It's usually towards the top. You have to scroll down and look for it a little. Okay, so right here. IPv4 address. That's it. If I had some sort of web browser running on my computer here, and you typed that address into the browser, it would come to my computer. Now, I don't have that, but you can also find out the address of someone else's computer simply by using a command called ping, and this works on Linux and Mac as well. And you get the IP address. Okay. You can copy that IP address like that. Go to your web browser, paste it in there, hit enter, and that's going to go. Sorry, the page you requested was not that. Well, it did go to Yahoo, but Yahoo apparently didn't like that IP address. Wonder why. Huh. Did not put the right one in? Let me try again. You know what? Let's try this here. Let's say ping. I think you have to do that. It's going to be a different address. There we go. This should work. So I will take that address. This used to work. It used to just go right to their webpage. And it's going to their servers, and they're giving us an error message, which surprises me a little, actually. Maybe I need to put the HTTP in. I'm a little surprised it's not working. Okay, can I get the right one that time? Huh. Okay. That used to work. Not sure why it's not working. But that's what it is. So you can see what an IP address is. It's like a social security number for your computer. The only difference is your computer doesn't get to keep it forever. Most people are on internet connections where the IP address changes from time to time. You may keep it for a couple of weeks, or you may lose it one day. Your service provider has a bank of IP addresses, and when you log in, they give you one to temporarily use. ARPA accomplishes with the development of the IP address. Essentially, it's a number that uniquely identifies it. The protocol IPv4 has been used since 1984. There is a new protocol, not widely used yet, but it will be, IPv6. The problem with IPv4 is they're running out of numbers because there's so many computers on the internet, and phones and iPads, and every single one of them that wants to communicate over the internet needs this number. So IPv6 is coming out, and it just allows for more numbers. Obviously, it's exploding. We've gone from bandwidth you're getting pings coming in from those places. What are you doing? So maybe you shouldn't tell me. Telecom companies in the U.S. government. You know, if it's a ping coming in, it could be a hacker, but I doubt that would be from a telecom company or the U.S. government. If there's pings coming in, they're obviously, it could be a random ping that they just do. They randomly generate numbers. If you see coming in from the same computer all the time, though, that may not be the case. If you're getting pings from a telecommunications company, it could be part of your internet service provider who's communicating with you. From the U.S. government, I don't know. I don't really have to ask what are you doing. Yeah. You know, who knows what it is? You know, the government's got all kinds of investigations going on. Not to say that you're doing anything wrong, but they might be just randomly looking. You know, the way a lot of these, and you know, not saying you're doing this or anything, but the way the government caught a lot of these porn operations, for example, is by their IP address. A lot of people don't realize it, but when you log on and you do something online, if that site stores your IP address in its log and associates it with some content you're looking at, the government's going to be able to find out what house the computer is in, actually. Because they can get that based on the IP address by going through your internet service provider. So they actually can find out who you are, or at least what location the computer was used at, to request whatever content. And they've used that to catch a lot of these people. They thought they were anonymous, but they're not anonymous. I'm certainly not advocating anyone go to a Starbucks and look at their porn instead, but I'm just saying that it's not anonymous. When you go and you go to a website, they know what your IP address is, and if they want to store it in a log and record what content you look at with those logs, they can as well. So, for example, aren't there a way to mask IP addresses? Not really. Well, yes, if you go through several servers, but if you're just the average Joe, not really, because the problem is the server you're going to has to know what your IP address is in order to send a response back. So you're communicating with them initially, but then they have to communicate with you as well. So they have to know what your IP address is. There are ways of masking it by routing it through several servers you control. But that's about the only way, and most people aren't that sophisticated, obviously. But another example was recently. I know that there was these all these petitions on the government's website about various things, and one of the more famous one was to let Texas secede. Well, what the government found out from all those 125,000 petitions is that it was actually more like 25,000 IP addresses using multiple email accounts, and half of them were from states other than Texas. So that's what they were able to determine based on the IP addresses. Because the IP address, you can have different email accounts. That's not what identifies you. What identifies your computer is your IP address. And different IP addresses are given based on location. So, for example, Dallas has a certain range of IP addresses, period. And Chicago has a different range. So, you go, and that's why I tell people, I don't really care where your politics are, but you probably want to be careful about going to those sites, because if they want to find you, they can. So, honestly, they can. And, that was the result, is that it was, about 25 to 30,000 people with multiple email addresses, and not even half of them from Texas, filling out those petitions. So they basically laughed at them. But, the bottom line is, it's the IP address that identifies your computer, not anything else. And yes, they can, and you can mask it, but very few people know how to do that. You have to mask it through multiple servers to do that. And that becomes complicated. So watch what you post online. Okay. We're just past 7 now, and it's an intro class. I don't want to go a heck of a lot further. Does anyone have any questions so far? The attendance there isn't we're going to stop here. 45 is a good round number. I'll remember that for next week. There's an attendance link. If you go back to my website to record your attendance, click on that. And it's really important that you do that for the next couple of weeks, so that that I don't drop you when I have to do the census. Best way to reach me would be by email. I prefer my Yahoo, my Timlinar at Yahoo, because I tend to check with that one more frequently. TBA, I'm not sure what you mean by to be announced, or. I'm sorry, Eric. I did not create the web access yet. I'm going to do that. But you can go to my website. It's timlin.net. Just type in timlin.net. Click on all classes. and then click on CIS111. You can use whatever email you want. The only thing I would say is please use the same email so I realize you're the same person. You submit them to web access, and let me go into web access and take a look at it. Go into College of San Mateo. Then you scroll down. Click on web access. Okay, then you have to log in. Is it everyone not used this before? If you took it in another class, College of San Mateo, you should have used it. It looks like it's a little slow right now. You type in your G number and your password. Now mine's got a bunch of stuff in it, but you'll see right here there'll be a link for CIS 111. And it's not set up yet, but when you click on it, the way it's going to work is there'll be a week here, and there'll be a list of everything that's assigned for that week, including the labs. And the labs will have a link to upload your assignment. So, and that's how you would do it. And I'm going to get that set up by this weekend for sure. Are there any other questions? Yes, if you mailed, I should probably take a look and see. Hold on for a second. Let me check and see. I'll look at the ones that have come in, make sure it came in, and call your name. If you don't hear me call your name, then that means it did not go through your attendance. If you haven't done it yet, please do it. Let's see. Hold on. It's like only 9 of you submitted the attendance. And let me see. I have. I'll try and get you an ad code. I've got Christopher U, and you need an ad code. I've got a number. I'm actually going to try and give you the ad code right now. Okay, Christopher, I just sent it to your SMCCD account. What is an ad code? An ad code, you need that if you're on the wait list. You need an ad code to get off the wait list and to get into the list. I've got Gordon Lee, and you don't need an ad code. If I say something wrong, you need to let me know. Got James Prasad, you need an ad code. That's going to go to your Gmail account. Tyler Ackman, and you don't need an ad code. Elaine Chang, and you don't need an ad code. Ron Ramos, you don't need an ad code. Hunter Sanzeri, and you don't need an ad code. Kin Young, and you don't need an ad code. Jonathan Ruiz, no ad code. Alexander Gravakis, and no ad code. Hugo Rodriguez, no ad code. Nick Morgan, no ad code. Gabriel Zarabanda, no ad code. Anna Curry, no ad code. Vincent Ng, no ad code. Luz Sanchez, no ad code. John Rayner, no ad code. Rachel Smith, no ad code. Gerson Flores, no ad code. Sean Adams, and you need an ad code. And I will be sending that to your CSM account. Just sent that, Sean. Abraham Howland, no ad code. Oren Goatsman, and you. I hope I didn't run badly. Goatsman, and you need an ad code. Going to your Gmail account. If I called your name and I got it correctly, and you have any questions, you can leave. Eric Niketin, no ad code. Brian Ganahi, I think, and you need an ad code. Erica Correct. No ad code. That's it. So if I didn't mention your name, I didn't get your attendance. Make sure you fill out the attendance. Those of you that I said you get an ad code, you should have gotten it probably by now. If you haven't added the class yet, your web access won't show it. If you're registered, it should. Physical meetings. There are no required physical meetings. I am, however, going to have some labs, optional labs, where I will be on campus. And if you want to come for whatever reason, if it's just to meet me or you prefer to ask a question in person or something like that, they will be posted. But there won't be any regular ad classes. When you get the ad code, I believe you have to actually re-register again and use the ad code. I don't think I haven't done it very often myself, but I believe the process is you go and you register for the class again, and then it'll ask you for an ad code. You can raise your hand. There should be a little hand thing on your webinar thing, or you can just type the question too. You know, I think if you just go to Amazon and buy it with the normal shipping, you'll get it within a week, and that's fine. I'm going to get it up by this week. Well, you can register now. You don't need web access to register. But I'll have it up by this weekend for sure. It's on my website. It's not on web access. It's on my website. So if you go to timlin.net and okay, you go to all classes, click on the link for this class, and scroll down to the first class meeting. You'll see it says, please record your attendance here. Click on that. You've used syllabus full 2012. You might want to just try and refresh your browser. You may have the old syllabus cached. Hugo, if you looked at it a week or so ago, it should definitely say fall 2013. Okay. It will be. It's also on my website. I am going to get web access updated, I promise. But it's also down here as well. So Lab 1 is here. But it will be on web access as well, and that's how you'll upload it.